Please make note that this meeting is being recorded. Seeing how 6:30 has come, I would like to open up this public meeting of the Woburn Conservation Commission. It is December 19th, 2024, and under the public hearings, we have NStar Electric Company, DBA Eversource, locus is 42 Green Street, notice of intent, DP number 348-880, for the decommission of Station 58 and the remediation. If there's someone here to speak on the matter?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think
Seeing
anybody
none.
from Eversource is here yet, so I'd like to delay the opening of that public hearing.
I'm sorry?
Can we delay the opening of the public hearing?
Okay.
There's nobody from Eversource here.
Were they supposed to be here, or did you hear, or?
I was expecting them to come, so.
Okay. So we'll delay the opening to NStar Electric, locus 42 Green Street. We have a motion by Jerry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, moving on. One informal discussion. We have John Berkerholtz, Zoo New England, report on the Blanding turtles.
Set up our presentation very quickly. There she is. All right. Awesome. Absolutely. My name is Kirsten Ward. I'm going to also present along with John Berkholtz.
Before you guys get too far, would you sign in?
Oh, of course, of
Thanks.
course.
Thank you.
Of course. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for having us. As I said, I'm Kirsten Ward. I'm also going to be presenting. I also worked on this turtle survey along with John because we're both avid supporters of Woburn and we both live here. So we were very curious to figure out what kind of turtles were living here in Horn Pond. And so while of course John and I have always been curious about the turtles that live in Horn Pond, we actually began this survey because an employee from the zoo who works in guest services and also doubles as a wildlife photographer was waltzing around Horn Pond taking photos, as one does, and actually photographed a Blanding's turtle, which is a rare species that our team works extensively with. So this initiated our turtle survey at Horn Pond, and our goal for the survey was to determine the presence and abundance of both rare species like the Blanding's turtle, along with whatever common turtle species were at both the Horn Pond Lagoon and any of those connecting wetlands. So the way we went about this turtle survey was by trapping with these 12 to 18 inch long mesh funnel traps. And the way that these guys work, they have holes on each side, and those holes are about big enough for a large turtle to get inside. And once those turtles are inside, the mesh is kind of closed. It's not held open as nicely as it is on that outside, allowing them to get in. So once they're inside, it's a bit more difficult for them to get out. Not impossible. We've definitely had turtle escapees. However, for the most part, they do have a more difficult time getting out. So they are stuck on that inside of the trap, where you may see a few other objects inside there, such as a pool noodle, which is used to allow that trap to be able to float above the water, of course, because our turtles breathe air, so we don't want any turtles who are submerged totally underwater. And along with that pool noodle, we also have a little can of sardines, which we crack open to bait that trap, allowing for turtles to smell and want to go inside our trap, of course. We also have a stake that is staked into the ground within that trap so that the trap is not taken by any strong turtles away from where we placed it. So that just holds it into place and keeps everything in sturdy condition. And we check these every single day. So as soon as we set a trap out, we leave it overnight, go and check the very next day. And we set a total of 16 traps at 20 different locations throughout Horn Pond wetlands for this 3-week period. And these traps were not placed randomly. We placed them based off of our experience where turtles like to hang out. And these traps, if they were set out for a few days and we weren't catching anything, there didn't appear to be any turtles in this location, we did move these around, hence our 20 different locations with only 16 traps. When these traps were placed and we actually caught turtles, we would do a variety of different things depending on what types of turtles we caught. So we always take some data whenever we catch a turtle in a trap. For all turtles, we will record what species it is, what sex it is, what age we believe them to be. But for the rare species like Blanding's turtles or spotted turtles or water musk turtles, we will do some more extensive data collection, and we will take their shell measurements, like the depth of their shell, the length of their shell, the width of their shell, all of the shell measurements. And we'll also take photographs of the individual so that we have record of the individuals that we came across. We'll take some weights, and we will mark this individual using a notching system so that we are able to identify if we've caught this turtle before, if we are to recapture them. By far, the most common turtle at Horn Pond from our findings was the painted turtle, which is no surprise to us. This is one of the most common turtles in all of Massachusetts. And during this survey, we caught 204 painted turtles. There were 154 males, 43 females, and 7 juveniles. And it's most likely that some of these turtles we were absolutely recapturing. So there's no way to tell that these were all unique individuals because they are not a rare species that we are marking using that notching system. So it's totally likely that some of these were recaptures. However, we only surveyed a small portion of Horn Pond. We didn't even get into some of the larger lagoon areas, again, based off where we think our turtles would like to hang out. So there could be a far more extensive population of painted turtles hanging out there. This is what we saw. These guys are often referred to as sun turtles because these are the ones you'll most commonly see basking out on logs, as the folks walking around Horn Pond will tell you. And they use all types of wetland habitats, and they nest in upland areas and loose soil, and they'll lay around 3 to 10 eggs. Again, these guys aren't picky. You'll see them kind of in all habitats, which is why we weren't surprised to find so many. And they do reach a maturity around 6 to 10 years old, and they'll live about 20 to 40 years, which isn't the longest for turtles, but still a pretty long life. And we are able to sex these guys based off of the sexual dimorphism of different lengths in fingernails, which is a really fun one. The males have much longer claws, and they use this to attract a female by tickling her cheek with those long claws, which is very silly. The second most common turtle that we caught during our survey was the snapping turtle. And during our survey, we caught 9 juveniles. And these snapping turtles have that snapping mechanism to defend themselves because they are one of the few turtles who can't go entirely inside their shell because they do have a reduced shell. Their tummy shell is much smaller than most other turtles. These guys reach a maturity up to 15 to 20 years old, and they lay around 20 to 40 round eggs as opposed to the kind of oval-shaped eggs that other turtles would lay. And they'll lay those in upland areas like the community gardens. And these adults, they get up to around 15 inches and 35 pounds on average, which is a big turtle. And they live about 40 to 50 years old. And then I'm going to hand it over to John.
So here we have the red-eared slider, and it was the 3rd most common species that we found. We found actually 2 adult females and 2 little babies. These are little babies. And they're not native to the Northeast. They're actually native to the Midwest, Central states, and the South. So these are the common turtles that were sold in pet stores for years and years. The little dime store, people buy them as little hatchlings, and then they grow up to be 10 inches big. And people get tired of keeping a turtle for 20, 30 years or whatever, and then they just release them at the nearest local pond. And so the state of Massachusetts has stopped allowing these to be sold in pet stores, but they're still sold in other states, and they're selling, this other turtle species being sold. So people will buy turtles not realizing the commitment involved in keeping a turtle for decades. So this is the most common species we find that have been released, and they often just, because their range is fairly, North American, they can survive in our climate. They have very similar life cycles to other of our native turtles. So, though we did find this is considered an invasive species, we found the numbers are low, so they're probably not doing any harm at the present moment because there's so few of them. So, we're not worried about them. They're just there, sort of like other invasive species that become established but don't necessarily overtake the native species. Okay. So here, this was a nice little surprise. This is a musk turtle, and we found just one adult male. And interestingly, with the exception of the painted turtles, all our other species of turtles, the males have a very concave plastron or bottom shell, and you can very nicely see that in this photo here. It's very concave. Similar to the snapping turtle, you could see that it's got a small plastron, so it can't completely put its legs and head inside its shell. So just like snapping turtles, their defense is more offense. So they are kind of little nippy turtles. Cute. But they're also called stink pots because they release a musky smell when they feel threatened. So they actually kind of smell funny when they're picked up. And they're found in, again, kind of mucky wetlands. And they're one of our smaller turtles. They only lay maybe a half dozen eggs, but they can still live, again, that typical 40-plus years. We were very surprised we didn't find more of them because these are a native species, but they seem to be becoming less common. And then finally, we have our Blandings turtle, and this is the photo we got from our fellow zoo employee, Krista. And this is a beautiful photograph of the Blandings turtle who's hanging out with a painted turtle on a log. And it's actually by the pool that's right adjacent to, across from the lagoon. There's a nice big open pool there, and that's where she was hanging out all last summer. And let's see. And so we knew she was a female because instead of having that concave bottom shell, she had a very flat bottom shell. And we could also figure out that she was probably in her 20s or 30s based on the annuli. You can kind of look on the upper right corner, you'll see little lines on the shell there, and each line is just like a tree ring, so each line is a year worth of growth. But as they reach maturity, between 17 and 20 years of age, those lines become so indistinct that you can't even count past 20 usually. And at that point, we're looking at shell wear, and she had some shell wear, so she's probably in her 30s. So she's middle-aged, or good reproductive age. They lay an average of 8 to 12 eggs on land, like other turtles. And then, like other species, the hatchlings emerge from late August to late September. But unlike the painted turtle, these guys really like heavily vegetated areas. And this is, the bottom photos are taken from Lowell Drake at Teensboro State Forest, which has quite a healthy population. And you could see just how thick the vegetation they like. A lot of these wetlands are also impacted by beaver, so they need a certain water level, usually a couple of 3 feet year round. So those types of wetlands are important. So that's why we set our traps in areas along the cattail edges or around the lagoon area where there are a lot of like shrubs, aquatic shrubs and plants nearby. They can travel quite far. We've had females in our other sites travel up to a mile to nest. They'll go over long stretches of wetlands and uplands to reach their nesting areas. And they require kind of a fairly large, often several 100-acre protected area, unlike painted turtles can do just fine in a much more confined space. So that's one of the reasons they are state threatened, is because of traveling across roads and they get hit by cars. And if you lose a female in the population, it's pretty bad, because they could reproduce for 50 years of their life. So in our survey, we didn't find any other Blanding's turtles. We thought maybe there could be a potential for a remnant population to be here that might have just managed to survive all the urbanization around, but we didn't find any. The habitat was what we considered marginal. There were some nice vegetated areas, but it was somewhat limited. And of course, unfortunately, we don't have any really good connectivity with all the busy roads, and we're just simply developed here. Even if we did find a few, perhaps we found another 1, 2, 3 turtles, it would be hard to maintain a real sizable population at that site at Horn Pond. We suspect, also I didn't mention, she also had a shell injury on her carapace, which looked healed, but probably didn't happen that long ago. So we suspect that maybe somebody might have found her on the road, picked her up, and maybe just brought her to Horn Pond and released her. Or maybe somebody picked her up, had her as a pet for a while, and couldn't keep her, or realized they shouldn't have it legally, and brought her to Horn Pond. So we discussed this situation with Natural Heritage, with the state herpetologist, Mike Jones, and there's a proposal. After she got a health analysis from our zoo vets, she's in good health, no issues with the shell injury. They sent out some blood tests, but so far so good. So we're discussing the proposal or possibility with the state about relocating her to a more healthy population, which would probably most likely be, Great Meadows, perhaps in Concord, or someplace in the next closest population. And that way she can contribute to the gene pool, because she is a reproductive female in good health. So some takeaways. So it was very interesting being here. There's a lot of things that could be done for surveys for wildlife at the Horn Pond Conservation Area. It's a great place for wildlife, urban, terrestrial and aquatic life. We know it's the uppermost reaches of the spawning herring, which is really important and really exciting. Great community support from the Friends of Horn Pond, and then we have Earthwise Aware and the Mystic Watershed Association. So a lot of just community excitement about doing these wildlife surveys. And we did note the invasive aquatic plants encroaching native wetland plants. It's particularly in the lagoon. The Asian water chestnut and purple loosestrife is pretty bad in that area. So some future thoughts is, removal of invasive plants and planting or supporting more native aquatic species. Plenty of opportunities for future monitoring of other wildlife, fish, and invertebrates. We have pond mussels there, which is actually a good indication of water quality, so it was exciting to get quite big. We have a pumpkin seed sunfish, which is one of our native sunfish. And then just maintaining water levels. Unfortunately, because of all the climatic extremes we're experiencing, there's a lot of extremes in the water levels, so just trying to maintain somewhat of a more stable water for the benefit of the fish and turtles. And we think too, perhaps beaver could aid in that, or there's a way to live with beavers as far as water levels. But yeah, so it was definitely very interesting, and we enjoyed it very much. So
Thank you so much for your
thank you very
time.
much.
Really interesting.
Couple of comments. Well, actually a comment and a question. I had no idea that the turtle population was so abundant, which is kind of encouraging. But one of the last slides said that the habitat for the blanding is marginal. Should we be concerned about that? Should we be looking for people like you to maybe find them, transfer them to a more acceptable habitat? What would you recommend that the city and the conservation do?
Yeah, so, again, we just found that one. We could do another turtle survey to see if we find another one or two individuals, but there's not much we could do as far as the Blandings turtle, just because they require so much space. But the habitat that is there is good for the painted turtles, snapping turtles. If we find more musk turtles, that would be great. We didn't find spotted turtles. It would be interesting to see if they occur. It would be interesting in the spring, because sometimes they'll be in the uplands in the summer months. They're easier to catch in the spring. But I would probably just concentrate on the turtles that are there now, and not the Blandings. I think are just kind of out of the scope in that particular, the Horn Pond area. But focusing on the other species, definitely.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
One
John?
quick question. If you were to ever do something similar for the fish habitat, are they caught in a similar way?
Yeah, so we're not fish experts, but we've done a little freshwater surveys for fish. So basically what we'll do just seining. So just use like a 6 or 8 foot length seine, so we have a person on either end. You just carry the net and then you scoop up whatever you catch. So it's very small scale. We haven't done electrofishing or anything fancy
I
like
guess it
that.
would definitely be a lot tougher.
Yeah.
I know I've never pulled any fish out of there when I tried.
But we did catch a few different species at Foul Brook. We did last-
Anybody else?
Just a couple of questions, if I could. Excuse me, Jerry. I beat you to
Sure
it.
did.
I did, I made the jump. 2 questions. First one, maybe an odd question, but I noticed that you mentioned about the recapture. We think the number is this, but some of them might be recaptures and everything like that. So a simple mind like mine just wonders, isn't there a way, like when you capture it the first time, that you put a chip on it, or you mark it, or something like that? Or?
Yes, you are absolutely right, and that's exactly what we do with the rare species. But because there is such a surplus of painted turtles, which is the most common that we caught hundreds of, there's just no need to necessarily do that. But that exact process is done with the rare species, not always with a microchip or better, what we use is a radio to actually track the turtle if we were to locate it again. But notching the turtle using a file to actually engrave their side of their shell in a specific location so that we're actually able to give them a unique number. We are able to not only identify if we've caught it before, but identify exactly who it is and all of the data that we've gotten on them in previous encounters. So that exact idea is something that we do use for rare species.
That makes sense. If there's no need to do it, why do it? But I got it. That makes sense. The second question is, and again, it's probably an odd question, but I'll ask it anyway. Where is the Blanding turtle now? Where is it?
Oh, good question. So I meant to say that we put a radio transmitter on her shell. You might have seen that glued on the back of her shell.
Yeah?
Right there. And you could kind of see that bump. So it's glued on with a plumber's epoxy, basically steel stick. And that radio will send out a frequency, a beeping signal for up to 3 years. So we did attach that to her so we could follow her. And currently she moved to another pool that's literally along the lagoon, and there's a trail that goes around this little vernal pool.
Yeah.
So she's in there now.
Okay.
And we'll leave her be, and then we'll definitely check on her in the spring, and then we'll see what the state wants to do with her.
Thank you. Jerry?
Thank you. Good questions. Just a couple of questions about, so the red-eared slider, it's not native. Are they reproducing out there, do you think?
Yes, so we did find some juveniles, which does suggest that they are reproducing. But like we said, because there are such small numbers, especially in comparison to our native species, we're not viewing them as problematic. And just for comparison, at other sites, we also see these small populations where they are reproducing. But again, they're in small numbers. We have not seen it grow to a point where we're worried about them being invasive or endangering our other native species. So they're not problematic as right now, and they're not booming as a population. And just like our native species, they face similar threats, especially through their life cycle and not, their eggs being eaten and all of the same other things that the other turtles face. So we don't see them kind of taking off and booming at any point as a population.
Okay, that was my follow-up to that, was they're not disruptive to the native.
Exactly.
Seems like it.
And then just one last question on the musk. There was only one musk, right? What are your thoughts on how, same thing, maybe somebody dropped it off there, or?
I don't know. It's hard to, not sure. I mean, they're definitely native, and it's a perfect habitat for them, so I don't know. Good
Maybe
question.
there's more out there that you just didn't get, right?
Yeah.
They are very secretive like that. Again, at other sites, just in comparison, we don't come across these large amounts of them. We do usually see them like one here, two there. Like we don't see them
Right.
very often. So it's very similar to what we're seeing here.
Okay, great. Thank you both.
Of course.
Anybody else?
Well, I have just a comment. So first of all, I want to thank both of you for this incredibly difficult work. And I say that with some degree of experience because you had me out there with my waders going into these spots and, I was falling all over myself. So stuck in the mud and everything else. So the work that you're doing is unbelievable as far as I'm concerned. It's really fascinating to watch and very difficult. And I really appreciate the fact that you went in and actually, Krista that found the blandings, kudos to her for identifying that, but then to really go in and do this 3-week survey I feel as though it's really a benefit to us. We learned an awful lot. I can speak for everybody else, but I certainly learned an awful lot, and I really appreciate all the work that was done, and thank you so much for the presentation as well. And if whatever comes in the spring with the blandings and what Mike Jones is going to determine, what the state will determine to do, I feel as though whatever you feel and what Mike feels as though is appropriate, I certainly would support that. And this blandings that's out there, it's a female in her prime. I mean, it would be a really benefit to keep the species moving forward. So, but again, thanks very much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
for-
much. And I wanted to thank you as well, especially just all of the people from Horn Pond are so enthusiastic. We actually received one of our highest amount of views on a blog post just from the Friends of Horn Pond. So that was an awesome opportunity for us to get more engagement and outreach. So we really enjoyed ourselves being able to survey Horn Pond, and we thank you all for the opportunity to do so.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
you.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you for
you.
all your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you want to take that little guy off the end. This guy's not on that one.
All right, great presentation. Moving on, under 4, business item. Teresa, any site visits that we need to think about?
I think 42 Green Street would be a good site visit.
Which one?
It's the Eversource, the decommissioning of that structure. So I think I would like to get out there and,
Out on Green Street?
yes.
Okay. This weekend?
I'm around Saturday.
Not
Sunday.
around.
I'm around.
I can do Saturday.
I don't know that I can do Saturday. but I could do Sunday.
You want to wait until after the Christmas holiday?
Maybe we should wait, maybe if we can, we probably want to have somebody from Eversource there as well.
Oh, yeah. You may need to, so, and it's not a lot of time to give them notice for this weekend.
Next weekend? If-
Are we done for the meetings for this month? Is this the?
This is the second
so then-
meeting in December,
Okay,
yes.
so then it won't be until
January,
January
yep.
anyway, so, all right, so.
About the following weekend?
I could do something during the, like, I'm gonna take some time off, so I don't, you guys are all retired, what's up with John here? I'm,
I could do almost any day.
I'm
of
just
the week.
wondering if maybe the, after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, like a weekday,
Sure.
I could do that. But I know you
During the
can't.
day, yeah, during the
Yeah.
day is tough, but I
Right.
could always go, I know the, well,
Don't do it for me, I'm just saying, I don't have this weekend to
What
do
about
it.
Friday, the 27th of December? Is that any good?
I don't have my phone, but what day is that?
It's a Friday.
Friday, the 27th.
I think I can do
Friday,
that.
the 27th of Friday.
And maybe, Teresa, if you could reach out to them and see if they could,
Yeah, we'll reach out, or the office will
With
reach
Would
out.
we be able to do it like first thing in the morning?
I could do it first.
Tentatively?
Maybe
What-
we
I'm
could see
sorry?
what they're available.
yeah, whatever their availability, that would be important, but morning's fine. for
Morning,
me.
I could do.
Yeah, I'm good in the morning, yeah,
10 a.m.?
sure.
Yeah.
I might be able to go in the morning, I'm off that day.
Oh, good.
Okay.
All right.
We'd love to have you.
So what's the day and
That's
time?
stuff in the afternoon, but
Tentatively, Friday, the 27th of December at 10 a.m.
10?
Thought you said 9. Oh, he did? Okay. That's fine, I can do 10 too, but I was
Still
prepared to
Friday,
do
right?
9. Does that work for you? Okay,
I'm good with that.
I'm good.
okay.
Okay.
hope I didn't overspeak.
Anything
No,
else?
I'm operating without a calendar, so.
So next on the agenda, permission
Renee,
for tree
you'll send me a
removal
notice on
and
that.
pruning at 16 South Bedford Road. Jerry, Jim, and I went out. We talked to the gentleman that was on site, and I'll let you two start the discussion. I thought it was, for the most part, okay, but
Pictures look okay, I do.
in terms of Commissioner Malone, none of it was marked, and I don't know if we feel like we want them to be marked, so the tree company goes in and knows exactly what, and after they're marked, we can go in and check them out again to make sure that we agree. I mean, how do you guys feel that we're out there?
No, that sounds good. Because there were so many, there were also some that were probably not on the homeowner's property.
Right, and we told him so,
Right.
so
Right.
those should not be touched.
No, they shouldn't. And then there was that one other one that he wanted to remove by the shed. I didn't see any need for that, the black walnut.
Isn't that one that we discussed just pruning, like one of the larger leads?
Probably the lower leader.
John, you were there too, right? Yeah,
How
I'm
did-
That's what
sorry.
we talked about.
I thought it said, in the picture, it says it's dead.
That's
That's it?
that's the maple that's beside it.
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
different
okay,
one.
that's what I was looking at,
I
okay.
think you should, my feeling is that they should mark the trees, and then we should go back out there again, and just to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as what exactly is gonna happen. Some of those trees he
Yeah,
wanted to
It was,
remove.
it was, I wouldn't say extensive, but there was a number of things that he wanted done, and to just point,
Exactly.
so we have a positive and a definitive idea as to what's being done.
There was one closer to his out front neighbor that
Oh, right.
was on the neighbor's property that he said he had or was getting permission. I don't know if we decided that would be okay or not. I don't remember.
I don't think, we decided that would be okay, but again, he's got to
He's got to get that.
Gotta get
give us
permission from his neighbor.
Proof of permission.
Well, he can trim any part of a tree that's on his property, can't he?
He can, but this particular one was not, it was just completely off his property.
Oh,
but
okay.
Both he and his neighbor.
I wasn't there, so,
That might be
okay.
city property.
Just rotted at the bottom.
Okay.
Right. The one that, it was the black walnut, he wanted to remove entirely, and where we balked at that, and the suggestion was to trim the bottom left branch,
Excuse me.
not to remove the whole tree. That's why I say I think that
Yeah, that makes
we
sense.
need to come to that.
Well, that's always been
Thank you.
position. Everything should be marked, so.
Right. I appreciate everybody on that, because having done these a few times now over the past couple of years, I always felt going away that I should have the confidence, if I was by myself, and Teresa called me on the phone and should say, "What's the story?" I'd say, 7 trees, we're gonna prune 2, I know exactly what to tell her. And if I didn't know exactly what it was, I'd feel uncomfortable, and that's the way I always felt about it for the comfort zone. So we have the process, let's just follow the process that everybody knows, and it does get confusing. I think you guys are agreeing, especially in this case, there's just too many of them.
Too many.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you.
So I guess we need to reach out to the homeowner and have him
I agree.
flag the trees and the pruning that he wants done. And maybe, if there's a tree to be pruned and you can't get it, he can't put a flag, he's got to put a flag on it with something in writing, prune only or whatever. You know what I
Or a
mean?
different color.
Or
One
a
color for cut, one color for prune.
That's a good
Whatever's
idea.
easier for them, but.
Yeah, whatever's easiest, sure. Yep.
I think that's a plan. So, Teresa, you guys will let them know?
You want to let them know?
I can let him know.
Okay.
I'll let him know.
Very good. All right, moving on, we have minutes of December 5th, 2024. I was not present, but I did watch the live video streaming, so I will offer my vote on the draft. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept the meeting minutes of December 5th, 2024 as drafted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
I,
Do I need to, I think I need to abstain. I wasn't present. I did read it, and I didn't see any typos, but
Right?
One abstention?
I would abstain.
Anything else?
Nope.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we delay the opening of the N-Star Electric DBA Eversource Locus 42 Green Street, DEP file number 348-880, decommissioning of the building to our January 9th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Very good.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Bravo.